Welcome to Oddball. I'm Amin and Izzy. That's Izzy Gutierrez. And guys, it's time to start talking about which one of these teams is going to be successful and which one of these teams need to start making some vacation plans ASAP. It's the pressure grid. That's what it's called. Yeah. I was like, it's time for the pressure grid. There you go. As our friends at DraftKings will tell you, some teams are more likely to win than others. But just because a team is primed for a title run doesn't mean they're under much pressure to get it done. So some teams who are under the most pressure have the longest title odds. Confused? Have no fear, because we came up with this grid, the pressure grid. Right? There it is.
Here's the way I look at it. I mean, if you're going into like, let's say, a hangout with some friends, they're more NBA fans than you are, right? There's one thing I love about poker is you can have sort of what beats what on under. So if you have new people playing, it's like, that's okay. We can have a little card of what beats what. This should be a cheat sheet when you're talking to your friends, right? But you don't know that much about the NBA playoffs. Who is under the most pressure and who is actually a contender? You can just pull this out of your back pocket and be like, oh, okay, we're talking about this team, boom. Yeah. And then you just put it right back and continue the conversation so you know where everybody is going into the playoffs. That's how I see it.
That's a good way to look at it. We're going to try and do this for every single team that is still alive right now. There's 20 teams alive, obviously. We got a bunch of teams in the play, and we'll try to get to them as well. But basically, buckle up for some action. Izzy, what do you got first?
Well, we'll start with the Oklahoma City Thunder. By the way, you said 20 teams, obviously, and I was just like, is that obvious? It's brand new. It's jarring to hear 20 teams going into the playoffs. But we got the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Not to the playoffs, not 20.
Sorry. So whatever, the postseason is what we're calling this.
Yeah.
OKC's level of pressure, I think, is interesting because while they have the most wins, obviously, they don't necessarily have the most experience in the playoffs. So it's not like everybody's saying it's championship or bust for this team, but they have graduated to that, hey, we kind of expect a championship from you guys. Yes. So it's definitely more than like halfway up that pressure.
Let me do this. Let's play the easy part first. Contender all the way to the right, all the way as far to the right as possible. All right, now that we got that out of the way, how high are they in the pressure? I'm with you right here, halfway. Right now, the expectation is there, but they still haven't. To me, the failure where everyone's like, "Yo, how could you blow that?" That's where the pressure gets the highest. For them, they're not there quite yet. I think it goes higher, obviously, if they lose this year, particularly if they lose earlier in the stages. So I'm comfortable with them midway. What do you think?
I think the contender status, it is where they're supposed to be, but I still think they might lose in the second round.
Okay.
So is that bump them to the left a little bit? I don't think so. I think they've already painted the picture of, hey, we are the contenders, the most contender of the contenders because of our regular season record. Yes. So I think that's probably a good place to be. Now, can I ask a question before we move on? What's the best place to be on this grid? Because for me, it's contenders to the right, no pressure on the bottom. Yes, you want to be lower right? Okay.
Yeah, the bottom right is the best. Although the top right may be where diamonds get made, man. Like pressure. It makes it busts pipes and it makes diamonds. All right. Speaking of another team that's all the way to the right, Celtics, let's just get out of the way over there. They're right there with the Thunder. Right there with the Thunder. The defending champs, 61 wins this year, plus 190 to win the title on DraftKings.
Plus, we just saw them do it, so it's easy to envision it. We know how they win. They're they're either going to play the Magic or the Hawks in the first round. I feel like the pressure has gone away for the most part in the Celtics because they won it last year. The only pressure being placed on them is, will they get the most out of this championship window? But they've been in this damn window for so long. It's effectively since Jason Tatum got drafted because they were in the Final Four that year.
Now, Izzy, you have been banging the drum about Jaylen Brown's knee not being 100% for quite a while now.
I said it on one episode, but if that's banging the drum, sure.
It's banging the drum and it's been quite a while. So because of that, do we knock them off contender status a little bit more to the left here?
I think a little bit. I think when you talk about a team that regular season wise has shown you a formula to win, is it the same way that they won last year in the playoffs? Maybe not. Is it the same personnel? Definitely not. And so I think there's a couple of question marks in there. And I think that desire slash the Jaylen Brown knee, right? So the desire not being as strong when you've already won one, and the Jaylen Brown situation, like you're talking 4 rounds, right? 4 rounds of NBA basketball. Like that's a lot for him to hold on. So I would say, yeah, you probably just a shave to the left on the contender status.
I want the pressure to go up more. That's a little too low pressure. They still play in Boston. The expectation there is still banners. And we have new owners that are coming in. And this is a very expensive team. I would put it not as high as the Thunder, but I would put the pressure above the 0 line for sure for them. They do have pressure.
They do feel some pressure for sure. Yep. So I'd say, yeah, I think that's a good spot for them right there. All right, next up, we've got the Lakers. They were 3rd in the West, 50-win season. Nice little 50-win season for the Lakers with everything going on. They are plus 1,400 to win it all on DraftKings Sportsbook currently. Look, I think everything this season was kind of pressurized more so than you would under normal circumstances, meaning a first-year head coach. Like normally you're not putting a whole lot of pressure on him, but you are because he's coaching LeBron and at the time AD. And then you sort of amplified it, not because everybody thinks your team is significantly better than it was, just because it's got better star power than it was. And you've been able to show it. So you've created pressure for yourself down the stretch of the season because you've been able to show a good defense. You've been able to show wins against some pretty quality teams. So I would say the pressure for the Lakers is almost always above that. Always above that midpoint.
You're the Lakers. You have LeBron. That already is baked in pressure right there. And then you say, oh, and by the way, you were gifted Luka Doncic midseason. That's another level of pressure, right?
I think it's a different type of pressure, but it's at least level with the Thunder.
Yep. And then as far as where they are, contender status. This is where it's interesting. To me, they're behind the Thunder. They're behind the Celtics. I would put them probably at that halfway point because they get hot and maybe anything could happen, but I don't see them as contenders yet. Next year, different story.
I mean, if you've got them in that quadrant, they are therefore contenders to me. Yes. Like I think if you put them to you, look, I think they have the unknown, right? But even with that unknown, we've seen what this version of Luka can maybe get you to the finals. This version of LeBron, I'm not really sure. I would say, to me, if they make a second round and LeBron announces that he's coming back next year, they're good. Like that's all they're asking for. And so I would say scoot that a little to the left. I don't think they're that much of a contenders. Yeah. And I would say level with the Thunder. Like I said, different type of pressure, but a similar pressure. So I think that's a good spot for the Lakers.
Cool. Next, we go to LeBron's former team, the Cleveland Cavaliers.
The Miami Heat.
They had their best non-LeBron season ever. Izzy 64 wins, plus 700 to win the title
Doherty.
on DraftKings. It's the first round matchup is still TBD because they are the 1 seed. We got to figure out who's going to be the 8. I've got them at least neck and neck with the Celtics in terms of contender status. If not, maybe I'm not giving them enough credit. Maybe I should have them, or actually, I'll say neck and neck with the Celtics contender status.
I think you're right. One contender status for the Celtics, neck and neck with the Celtics, because they've basically shown you how they can win. They've shown you throughout the course of the season, and they can show you they can sustain that. They had 3 double-figure win streaks. I would say contender status, they're at the very least right there with the Celtics. I would say they probably have less holes in the roster than the Celtics. So I would move them a smidge past the Celtics in terms of contenders. And you got to go north on pressure because it's a couple reasons. One, it's not a pressure to win it all, but they at least have to get to the conference finals and show up.
What?
Like you got to get to the conference. Yes, you have to get to the conference finals, and you at least have to take it 6 or 7. You can't get blown out. It can't look like it's a mismatch. If they get to the finals, I feel like they've accomplished what they need to accomplish.
Why do they have to go to the conference finals, and the Thunder can just be like, you're a second round knockout. Who cares?
It's just a different type of pressure because we've seen the Cavaliers upset, right? We've seen them lose to in theory, a lesser team. We've seen them disappoint in the playoffs. The Thunder, in their first chance, I mean, you could argue they disappointed last year, but that was a good second round matchup. Right. And now this year, they have to take that step up. Next year, I'm saying next year, they probably, I'm assigning that pressure already to Cleveland. They've already failed. Yeah. They already have a star in Donovan Mitchell, who's been multiple playoff series and has been the lead guy. But never
been to the conference finals.
Yeah. Correct. So this is where all those elements have to come together. They at least have to get to the conference finals, and they have to show up, because if they get there and Boston absolutely blows them out, then are they even contending in the same conference? No. Yeah. So I'd say that's a tough spot for the Cavaliers to be in, but that's the bed that they built for themselves, made for themselves.
No, they built it. They built
it. It's IKEA.
They went to IKEA.
Okay. All right, next up. It's the Rockets. I got to tee this one up. 52 wins, probably one of the, I'd say, top two most surprising feel-good seasons of the year. They're going to match up with either the Warriors or the Grizzlies. Whoo, man, if I'm the Warriors, I hate the fact that I have to try to win this game and then potentially face the Rockets, that team that just held Steph Curry to 3 points the other day. We got to go south on pressure. There's almost no pressure.
There's no pressure.
I'd say there's a little bit of pressure because Ime Udoka just creates that for you, whether he does it on his own by being this intense guy who's, been in the fight before with the Celtics, or just because they're the number 2 team in the West. At some point you have to say, all right, we know it wasn't expected, but hey, this is where they are. So they deserve to place a little bit of pressure on them. So I'll scooch them up a little bit pressure-wise. In terms of contender, I'm going to let Amin start this, and then I'll probably move them to the right some, because Amin does not have a whole lot of faith in my Houston Rockets.
I would say move them to the left quadrant, like that right midway point right there. Yep. That's about fine right there.
Ooh, so are you just saying that based on experience or the makeup of the team, or you're saying that there's actually a bunch of teams that are better than them in the Western Conference?
There are a bunch of teams that are better than them in the Western Conference, and there is no chance they're going to even be playing for an NBA Finals. Not winning a championship. They're not even going to be playing for the chance to go to the NBA Finals. That's just
so. The reason I put them at the center line on contenders is because of the way they win. They are a defensive team that if you allow them to ratchet it up, if you allow even more physicality to go in the playoffs, this team could be just a nightmare of a matchup.
It's not a walk in the park.
The last one I wanted to see was Warriors Rockets. I don't want to see them fight each other in the first round, but I think the Rockets would win that series. And I think if you match them up in the second round against, who would that be? That would be 2-3. That would be
Lakers Wolves.
Lakers Wolves. I'd love my chances if I'm the Warriors against either of those teams. So I actually love the Rockets potentially getting to a conference finals. And so does that make them contenders? To me, that puts them beyond the mid-level.
Okay. All right. Let's get one more in before the break here. The New York Knickerbockers, 51 wins. It's one more than last season. They're 13th in the East. They're plus 2,500 to win the title on the DK Sportsbook. They play the Pistons in the first round. Pressure. Give me the highest pressure possible. If you could get it off the screen, it's New York. There's no higher pressure. Everyone is always on red alert, on DEFCON 1.
So regardless of what pressure to do what, it doesn't matter. It's just that pressure is higher than everybody else's. If you say the Knicks made it to the conference finals, lost in 7 games, that's a good season. But the pressure to even do that is higher than it is for Cleveland to win a championship.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
All right.
Because Cleveland is filled with nice, understanding people, and New York is not. New York is filled with a bunch of impatient assholes, right? As far as
my grandmother lived in New York for a long time.
There you go. Well, you know what?
She's no longer with us, but she was kind of an impatient ass.
There you go. Contenders. Where are they on the contender spectrum?
Real quick, just because we love these folks, Claire DeLune and Jeff Stotts combined to write a story on whether or not Tibbs's minutes were really that hurtful to either the team or the players in their career. And spoiler alert, not so much.
I felt like the answer was inconclusive, not no. It wasn't a yes, but it certainly wasn't a no either.
But if you want to get the details on that, go check that one out. I would say in terms of contender wise, look, man, they haven't been in the real fight. We have no idea what it looks like when this team gets to a conference championship or an NBA finals. I don't think they have the defensive capabilities to really hang in there with most of these teams. I'm going left in terms of pretend. I would say right there. Stop at that first line. No, keep going. Stop at that next line right there. They're not contenders. Like, it would be shocking, shocking to see the New York Knicks in the NBA Finals. Would it not be?
It's shocking because they'd have to beat the Celtics. And they famously got their ass whooped every single time, except for the last time when they took it to overtime.
Against the two top teams in the East, plus the Oklahoma City Thunder. Yeah. Not very encouraging.
Yeah. I would throw it just a little bit closer to the midline. Just out of respect for Jalen Brunson, the number one clutch player in the NBA this season.
Look, the contender status is set by the contenders, right? You can't be like, oh, the Knicks could have won it a few years ago, but this year, the Celtics are too good. So you got to put them as close as you think they are to those teams, and they haven't won a single game against those teams all the way to the right so far.
You're right. Right there's fine.
All right.
Well, let's take a breather and we'll come back. Oh, Nikola Jokic has been talking big tough talk. All right, welcome back to Oddball. We're playing Pressure Grid here. We're trying to rank these teams according to the pressure they feel and their actual contender status. Next up, we got the Denver Nuggets, 50-32. They were the 4th seed in the West, plus 2,500 to win the title on the DraftKings Sportsbook. They're playing the Clippers in the first round. Izzy, they fired Michael Malone with 3 games to go in the regular season. Does that increase the pressure or decrease the pressure for you?
That's a great question. I feel like it nudges it up a little bit because I think if we were looking at the Nuggets with Michael Malone and saying, okay, they have clearly these blemishes during their season, right? Mm-hmm. They maybe can't figure it out. We could give them some excuses, no Aaron Gordon for stretches of the season, Jamal Murray, etc. I think now with the firing of Michael Malone, you say, oh, that wasn't the team we should have been expecting all season long. We should have been getting probably a better version. If, as the reporting is out there now, these players were miserable and not giving everything that they possibly could, then maybe we will see a better version. And, maybe Nikola Jokic does actually have some of that in him, right? Some of that, I care a lot. And that last coach was kind of annoying us. So now follow me to a championship. Like, we'll find out if he has some of that. But I do think it ratchets up the pressure just a touch.
Yeah, Jokic had a quote recently that just had me guffawing. Let's see if we can dig it up right here. But to me, yes, pressure's higher. Pressure's higher. Get them up the scale.
Higher than the Lakers. Higher than the Thunder.
Higher than the Lakers. Higher than the Lakers because here's why. If Michael Malone were the coach, we would call them contenders. We would say, hey, they should win a championship. They got the best player in the world. But if they didn't win, like you said, Izzy, we'd say, well, it was a tough season. Aaron Gordon missed a lot of time due to injury. As a result, the defense struggled considerably. They're still trying to figure out the others outside of Gordon, Jokic, Porter, and Murray, right? Who the guys are going to step up into that void. And instead, you fire Michael Malone, basically say, it's your fault. It's not all these other factors. It's your fault, and we should be so much better by their own admission. Well, then, guess what you just did? You put the hot spotlight on yourself to have to win. By the way, this is the quote from Nikola Jokic. The beast is most dangerous when he's vulnerable.
Wow, that's not terrible on the fly. You don't do a Nikola Jokic, but that's not terrible on the fly.
Thank you. It's like a Rocky villain, right? Like, what are you talking about?
That's hilarious. It's very not like him, right? To give you the quote, pretty much the cliche quote that you're expecting from him. But look, it's not to say that everything the Nuggets do makes perfect sense and will, work out. Like, right. I think the owners have this weird relationship with Michael Porter Jr. just because they're like Missouri people. And so it's just like, they're never going to trade him because of like where he went to school, which is kind of odd. But so it's not to say that they've figured everything out. Okay, what?
I just want to be clear on this, right? Like, because Mark Stein did the reporting about that. But I just want to point out that the Cronkies love Missouri so much that they would not trade Michael Porter Jr., but didn't love it enough to keep the Rams there. But we're clear on that? Okay.
It's different. It's different. I mean, you just
All
got to understand. But I would say contender wise, if we are to believe that there was a level to these Nuggets this year that we haven't seen yet, then they're even more of a contender than they've shown. They're more of a contender than the Lakers, I think.
Yes.
But not quite as much as the Celtics.
Yes.
Right?
I
That's
agree.
fair?
Yeah.
So I would say just like right in between them. I would say slightly more pressure than the Cavs, but not quite as much at the New York level, apparently.
Yeah. All right. Next up, who we got? We got the Golden State Warriors.
Ooh, the Warriors, 48 wins. Nice little season for them. They thought it would be better. They're plus 1,700 to win the title on DraftKings. They got the Grizzlies in the first game of the play-in. The reward would be to play the Houston Rockets, which I don't think either of them necessarily want to do. In terms of pressure, aren't they like right in the middle? Because no, you think it's higher than that?
Higher.
Oh, higher. Draymond Green did put some pressure on this team by announcing that. I would say higher. I would say it's higher than the Lakers.
Higher than the Lakers.
Not quite Nuggets level.
Not Nuggets level, but definitely high. Look, they did a massive swing for Jimmy Butler after they told everyone they didn't want Jimmy Butler to save their season. Steph Curry at some point in the season looked like he was completely defeated by everything that was happening around him. Draymond Green did the Leandro Barbosa, we gonna be championship early this year, right? And as we campaigning for defensive player of the year, they talk a lot of shit, man. And they've got a tough road. They could have won that game on the last day and saved themselves the extra hassle of having to play Memphis. And then when you get out of that, you have to play Houston, which is no walk in the park defensively, as you point out. And then you get out of that, you got to play the winner of Lakers Wolves, which is no walk in the park. Like there's a lot going against them. But
the reason I would drop the pressure some is that to win a championship this year, like I think the Warriors can convince themselves that yes, even though they'll be a little older, they can, finagle some things, probably finally get rid of Jonathan Kuminga, keep him, out of that misery that he's in right now, get him out of the misery that he's in right now. And maybe convince themselves, hey, next year with a full year of Jimmy Butler, we can win a championship. So that's why I would probably put it just a hair above the Lakers, but almost unnoticeable. And in terms of contenders, man, that game against the Clippers showed me a lot. They don't really have the big that they can go to, or more importantly, are willing to go to.
Right.
Whether it be Jackson Davis, whether it be
Post,
Kevon Looney, or Post. Like they obviously go to Post some, but they don't really have that piece to complete what it is that they try to do and have, all different variety to the way they operate. So they're worrying me a little bit in terms of how. But Steve Kerr is the guy I trust a lot. So I would say. At least level with the Lakers in terms of contender. Me too. So hiding behind the Lakers, you can barely see them above because of the pressure, but right around there. I know one finished third and one finished seventh, but it's like that's 2 games apart. They're the same team. They're the team that's saying, just get me to the playoffs and then I'll figure some out because I've got guys. My winning ways will come through. Yeah. All right. Next up, we got the Milwaukee Bucks. 48 wins. They're the 5th seed in the East, plus 11,000 to win the title on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. They play the Pacers in the first round. Izzy, where do they belong on the grid? Well, we got to fill out this left side. So move to the left, more of a pretender. I would say more of a pretender. So even more to the right than the New York Knicks. I'd say right about there is good. I think just the fun part about the Bucks is what can Giannis do? Like what can Giannis do on his own? Because the numbers are spectacular. And, we're already talking about sort of career retrospectives when it comes to him. It's like, oh, I saw somebody said he's the second greatest power forward ever behind Tim Duncan. So that's what I want to see. I'd say there's no pressure. I think the pressure to succeed, to keep Giannis on the roster beyond next year, but I don't know how high that is. There you go. We didn't define pressure, right? Pressure isn't just like what the fans want, the media wants, whatever. Pressure is also like, hey, man, are we going to lose our best player as a result? So I think there is pressure. Put it up midway point. Right there. There is a pressure there. I don't think they're at zero pressure. All right. It's time for another edition of Hot Streak. Hot Streak is presented by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear more about DraftKings. All it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Last week, we picked the Lakers minus 4.5 against the Mavs. They blew them out 112-97. We are officially streaking. We're streaking. Here are some games we can choose from. Grizzlies at Warriors or Hawks at Magic. Izzy, what do you like? Man, I think I want to stay at this Hawks and Magic's game. I don't know if the Warriors are going to cover 7, even though I think they're going to win, although I don't really have faith in the Grizzlies enough to bet them. Hawks at Magic. Look, I trust the Orlando Magic here. I think they're at least going to keep the game close, but I think that's probably why I want to take the Hawks +5, because if the Magic win, they're winning by 2 or 3 points. I feel like the Hawks +5 is the way to go here.
All right. I'm going to be at Warriors Grizzlies tomorrow, so we'll have fun there. But yeah, I'm with you. Hawks +5. I think the Magic are a win by a skin of their teeth type of team. And we're betting here that also Trae Young is going to have himself a time. That's going to do it. Happy playing, everybody.